I'd like you to welcome to the program a now respectable parliamentarian who was once a 60s radical alongside such people as Richard Neville. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Steedman. Give him a welcome. You like that, But it is a fact that all the wonders of the 60s are now in their 40s and that sort of thing, and all rather respectable occupations.
Well, I don't know. Richard hasn't too respectable on the program, I understand. We're trying to maintain some sort of semblance of reasonableness.
Just to introduce you to people, you're the parliamentarian who took a phone call from Ronald Reagan while Bob Hawke was in his...
He rings me all the time, Mike. I can't get him off my back. It's embarrassing.
How did this tell us the story, though? Because it sounded quite whimsical.
I think Hawke was waiting for the call. Reagan wanted someone to back him up for his invasion of Grenada. And it just so happened that he was opening my office at the same time, and that's what happened. The phone call came through, so we had to stop the procedures while Ronald rang through. But I got a lot of mileage out of it by being able to say every time the phone rang at different functions, if it's Ronnie, tell him to go away, I don't want to speak to him.
Yeah, right. What did you do to acquire the radical tag back in the 60s?
I was just a reasonable person, I think. Basically, it comes down to if you were fighting against certain restrictions that the society had. In those days, things that Richard was into, such as censorship and others, and later on issues such as the Vietnam War, those issues, anybody that was slightly different acquired this reputation.
Right. Right.
No one was in love with us too much in those days.
No, I know, but it's amazing how it's all respectable now, isn't it?
Well, I think we've proved correct, and that's what's happened. The rest of everybody out there's now realised we were right, haven't you?
People hate you being right. Be very careful. You worked with Richard on Oz Magazine in London.
I worked in Australia on it. Back in the early things too, in London as well, briefly. I only worked when they arrested him and took him off. I worked on to keep the company out of the hands of the police. Oh, look at those photos. They're good. Yes.
Look at Neville on the right, folks. That's Richard. That's Pete on the left.
That's me on the left, yes.
Would you buy a used car from either of them?
I'd just come in from Afghanistan at that stage.
That's a great shot, isn't it?
Oh, there's the police, yes, with Richard sitting there with the London Bobby. Yes.
Right. Yes, it was a bright life, wasn't it? How did your parents react to all this?
They didn't particularly. My father had made me persona non grata at an early age, and we hadn't. We didn't discuss politics or things like that.
Right. We actually have a film of you talking of you being respectable in the three-piece suit, and you might explain to. That's hardly the three-piece.
No, that's going into Parliament. Yes, that's.
You dress like that to go to Parliament?
Yes, that's as I usually go in.
Do any others dress like that?
No, unfortunately.
Do you want to stand up? Is that your reason for doing it?
No, I think basically I've always worn clothes that are comfortable, and I didn't see much reason to change, and it seemed to me that there's a lot of archaic things happening in Parliament House, and they're not necessary. I don't think my job is affected by the way I dress. If I feel uncomfortable, I can't do my job. After all, I am paid to represent the people and work in the Parliament.
Yeah. We never did get to see a three-piece suit, but that's life.
That was not many people did. It was during the election that came out.
Why did you wear it?
Because basically media perceptions. The media have created images that politicians look like this. I only had 1 month to campaign. I didn't want to scare people too much, and they had to see, they saw a person in a suit, they understood he was a politician.
Right.
I'm trying to change their perceptions for the next election.
Right. But you wore a three-piece suit to get in?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I still do wear a suit when it's necessary. I'm not against suits. I do wear them if they're necessary at different times.
How do you find the work?
Well, it's a 100-hour week. It's very tiring.
I would imagine that. Yes, everyone I know is an MP. It is. And
you've got half the time in Canberra and half the time back in your electorate with thousands of problems, and you're trying to solve the problems. And in Parliament, you're on committees. It's very tiring. You do 18 hours at a stretch without a break. It shouldn't be allowed.
Bored stiff?
No, I don't get bored stiff with the work because there's not time. Sometimes functions and things you have to go with so-called dignitaries and local government people who feel they're dignitaries, and they want you to go to cocktail parties and things. Now in the 3 or 4 hours I could be wasting the time there saying hello to people who think they're and probably wouldn't vote for me anyway. I could be doing some work in the electorate, helping a family get into the country or solving the problems of the people out there.
Yeah. But it always breaks me up when people are campaigning and they do the dumbest things like they pat dogs in the head and little children. They suddenly love little children.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you.
I kiss babies.
I didn't do any of that, actually. I did none of it. No, I refused to kiss babies, pat dogs, or do any of that sort of stuff. I refused to. It'd be dishonest, and it's not what I'm like. And if other people want to do it,
But you
kissing dogs and patting babies.
You've been quoted as saying that politicians are lower than a whore. So you're now saying you're a whore?
Well, a few of my friends who were whores didn't like the definition with politicians, actually. But what I'd said, it was rather truncated. What I said was, in the way society perceives politicians and the way they perceive whores, I would suggest that the society looks at politicians as a couple of rungs below a whore. Now, it's not necessarily true, but that's the way that people see politicians. And I believe that politicians, especially since 75, and I don't want to make a political point about Malcolm Fraser, but I will, since those days, I think that the status of politicians has gone down, and people rightly think that there's something wrong with them. And when Darren did a thing on Bert Newton, and that they did 80% of the people don't trust politicians, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think it dates back to that. I think it's just the fact that it's the old thing of power corrupts. You see people in a position of power, and you see things going on, and you say to yourself, that man could not possibly be ignorant of this. And it's the old adage, power corrupts.
Well, I think there's a bit of that. There's such complexities of government these days, they can do it. I'm not corrupted. I hope I'm not corrupted. Check me out in 3 or 4 years if I'm still there. If I'm corrupted, tell me.
Well, I'll put the acid test on you. Would you now buy a used car from this man?
No, that's better. A moment ago, they
about 80%.
Listen, I'm getting about 60% coming over.
Yeah, right.
Let's check it at the end.
Right. Do you reckon then, from what you were saying earlier about the workload, the politicians do give the vote of value for money?
Yes, I believe there's far too many politicians, but that's because we've got 6 state governments, a territorial government and a federal government.
Right.
I'd be all in favour of abolishing all the state governments and increasing the size of the federal government so that you can handle the workload. You also need more backup staff. You need 2 or 3 people, 3 or 4 people on your staff to handle the information overload you get. But I'm all in favour of abolishing the state. Personally, it's not party policy. I'm in favour of abolishing the state governments and increasing the federal, because I think that's why we do have too many politicians.
Yeah, that sounds nice and simple, but I do think the states would suffer very badly because each individual state wants to make its own statement.
It does in that way, but the English system's a centralist system, and I don't think they suffer too much.
Yeah. What do you feel about the new Aussie flag? I'm asking everyone this. Gets all the phones ringing. Why do you ask them about the flag?
I haven't thought about it, quite frankly. It's not an issue of great political importance. It's not something that people rush into my office and ask me. It's never really been brought up, so I don't know. I'm being honest, I don't really know. I haven't thought about it. I believe that it's about time we got rid of the semblances of the British Crown out of our country and in that sort of area. I'm a Republican, I admit that.
Yeah.
But I'd fought in many different areas. The Parliament seemed to be a way, and also being in the Parliament, it allows the newspapers and the media let you go on shows like this, and they write about what you say where they won't if you're not in the Parliament. So it gives you a chance to put over your own viewpoints and to try and do something in that level.
Yeah. Can you get away with much of your own viewpoint as a member of a party or the Labor Party, or do you have to toe the line?
No, I think there's 2 things. One is, obviously, when you're in the House, you vote the way. You have your arguments in the caucus room, and I have had a lot of arguments in the caucus room. When I'm outvoted, I then go along into the Parliament and I vote that line. It's useless. People say, well, you could go over to the other side. Well, the majority we've got, I could go over to the other side. That wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, except that'd be the end of me. And I believe that the voice that I put in there does contribute something. So it'll be counterproductive.
What's your electorate?
Casey.
Where's that?
Outer eastern of Melbourne. It takes in sort of a middle-class suburban belt and then goes miles up in the bush with lots of strange people. Oh,
they won't vote for you anymore.
Up in the bush. No, there are strange people in the bush. That takes it coming in that way. It's it's got Buxton, Narberthong, Healesville, Croydon, Lilydale, Ringwood, Doncaster, Hurstbridge, Warrandyte. It's large.
Quite large, right?
Quite large.
So if anyone in that electorate would like their baby kissed or their dog patted,
they won't be getting it. No,
they won't be getting it.
But if they want some genuine help.
Oh, right.
Genuine help.
What sort of problems? Like,
or whatever. I mean, we spend our time on taxation, immigration.
But what if someone's just got a spare afternoon and I'd like to talk to someone? Could they pop by?
Yes, they could. If we could fit them in there. They could probably speak to my staff more than myself if I'm in Canberra.
Well done.
All that sort of stuff.
Okay, anyway, very nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Steedman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. We'll take a break. James Scully with another Oscar-nominated song in just a moment.